Hey everyone, Nathan Rose here, the author of Chess Opening Names. And in today's video we're doing some opening instruction on one of the most aggressive choices if you're playing with the white pieces, the Danish Gambit. Now this sees white sacrifice a pawn or maybe even two pawns for a big activity advantage, plenty of attacking chances, and we're looking to checkmate black or just win a decisive amount of material so that we can finish the game nice and quickly without needing to play an endgame. That's what we're going for. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, would love if you could hit that subscribe button. Got lots of great content coming up, so subscribe to what I've got going on and you won't miss out on any of it. Okay, so the Danish Gambit begins with e4, e5, and then d4, striking in the center immediately. This is only white's fifth most common second move after e4, e5. So already black might be somewhat out of theory here. Black would have spent all their time preparing for knight f3, knight c3, bishop c4, even f4. The king's gambit is more common than the immediate d4. So there's a good chance that you're going to know this better than your opponent from the get-go. Black takes the pawn on d4 and the Danish Gambit begins with c3. Now just a quick historical side note here on the origin of this opening name. It comes from a player named Martin Severin From, who used this in an 1867 tournament in Paris. Now the interesting thing here is that From didn't actually do very well in this tournament. He came last. He came last out of 13 participants, but he still wrote an essay on this opening, and it's for this reason that we know it as the Danish Gambit today. But you're going to do much better than From did, because you're going to have these tips. So the greatest test of a gambit is to accept it. So black goes ahead and takes the pawn, and now there's two ways to proceed. Okay, this is a key branching point. The first one is what's known as the one pawn Danish. That's where white limits the damage to just a one pawn deficit by capturing on c3 with the knight. This was the choice favoured by Alexander Alyakin, the fourth world chess champion, who won many games playing this way, especially in simul games, where he was playing weaker opposition several at a time. Just to show you a couple of ways that Alyakin was able to win with the white pieces after knight takes c3 on move 4. There was a game versus Havoc in 1933 where black played bishop b4, and then the key move bishop c4. You'll see this in many lines of the Danish Gambit. And then just to show how quickly it can all go horribly wrong for black, black here played d6, which allows a pretty straightforward tactic, which Alyakin wasn't going to miss. Bishop takes f7, and the follow-up queen b3, regaining the piece with a regaining the piece and regaining the pawn, right? Because white did give up a pawn to get the Danish Gambit, but after the king moves back and you take back the bishop, the difference is that black's king has lost the right to castle, so white's always going to have better king safety. Another choice played in 1917 in a consultation game was bishop c5. So again, Alyakin plays bishop c4, and then we'll just play a few more moves to see how the game can develop. A key move in many cases in the Danish Gambit is this e5 pawn break. White is often better developed than black. White's king's already castled, black's king hasn't. This bishop's a bit sad and is going to need a couple of moves to develop because this pawn hasn't moved yet. And so white looks to blast open the center with e5, and the idea is that by giving up this second pawn, white gets this activity along the e-file. Black looked to counter with queen d4, and actually here Alyakin missed a great move. He saw this threat on f2, I suppose, and just defended. But even better would have been to go for the queen trade. Looks wrong, doesn't it? Because you're down 2 pawns, so you don't want to trade queens. But in this particular case it works because white's got the follow-up knight d5 with 2 threats. The knight on e7 is pinned and attacked, and if black defends it, for example with bishop c5, then the other threat is knight takes c7 check, winning the rook in the corner. Okay, so that's the 1 pawn Danish, where white gives up just 1 pawn and recaptures on c3 with the knight. White does get some activity as compensation, and as we saw in Alyekin's model games, white can make it count, but you know, whenever I look at this, I just think to myself, it doesn't look that bad for black really. Okay, white's got this pawn in the center and a knight developed off its starting square, but it feels as though black should be able to consolidate without too many problems. There's no immediate danger to the black king. So for this reason, if you want something even more aggressive, then you might want to check out the 2 pawn Danish. This is where, instead of recapturing with the knight, white just develops the bishop to c4 right away. Pointing at this dangerous diagonal, the naturally weak f7 square. And if black goes ahead and takes the extra pawn, then we now get these 2 bishops cutting right across the center of the board. This to me looks far more dangerous. Black's got nothing developed on the back rank, and black's got a task ahead of him in order to survive. Interestingly, the computer evaluation favors black. We can see that black's advantage is about 0.4, according to the engine. But remember, black is 2 pawns up. So 2 pawns up, but only an advantage of 0.4 shows that white's got great compensation here. And the human results at, let's say, the club level, right? I just took a look at the statistics on Lichess between 1400 and 2200. And it favors white. I'll just put that up on the screen so you can see. White is winning more of the time than black is, even though black is 2 pawns up. Now, of course, if white plays slowly and black is allowed to consolidate, then black's going to be better in the long term. So it's up to white to make this activity advantage count, and that makes for a very exciting game. So what I think is important here in the Danish Gambit is not to study the moves so much as the thematic tactics, because really what white needs to do is to land a blow of some sort. You need to have a good tactical eye, and you need to be able to calculate and take advantage of them when they appear. But also what helps is to know about the tactics in advance before you sit down to the board, right? This is about knowing the opening better than your opponent. It's not just studying the moves, but it's also studying the thematic tactics. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at a few thematic tactics so that you will be better placed to recognize them in your own games. So a nice easy one to start off with. One of the things about black's position, as we've already said, is the severe lack of development along the back rank. So this disconnected back rank can be exploited if black makes a mistake such as c6, asking the bishop to move away, but this allows bishop takes f7. Always watch out for this move. We've already seen it in one of Alyekin's games, but here it has a different theme, because once the king captures this bishop, then the queen on d8 doesn't have a defender. If the king moves out of the way this way, then the threats continue. Now, black really does have to take the bishop. There's not really much choice. The only other way to block the check, apart from giving up the queen, is c5, but of course that doesn't help. It's the same thing. So once the bishop's taken, the queen falls. Another idea that we saw already, but which is definitely worth emphasizing, is the queen b3 idea. Remember in one of Alyekin's games, it was bishop takes f7 check, followed by queen b3 once the king recaptures. But queen b3 directly can also emphasize the pressure against f7 without even needing to sacrifice. And in this case, black doesn't actually have a way to defend that pawn. Well, not a good way anyway. Knight h6 would defend the pawn, but We just take that knight off and the threat is renewed. You can't move the pawn out of the way either, because then you lose a piece instead of just a pawn. Bishop e6 also loses a pawn. Now this queen's very active and black's going to find it very difficult indeed. So watch out for queen b3 in many positions of the Danish Gambit. It's not all about sacrifices on f7 in the Danish Gambit. There can be sacrifices on f6 as well, such as in this position, which occurred in Garda versus Petsteritz 2002. White's got the amazing knight f6 check. The queen can't take because the bishop's guarding it, but after the g-pawn captures, white trades the queens, and then after the king recaptures, we've got this beautiful fork here. So white has won back some material, and there's still work to do, but white should be winning in this position. So in this position, black's king has castled, but that doesn't mean the king is safe. White still has these two extremely powerful bishops pointing straight at the black king side. And in fact, it's debatable whether the king is actually safer in the castled position than back on e8. So white actually has a lot of different moves here, but the most spectacular one is again the knight f6 sacrifice. So remember this knight f6 move in many positions of the Danish Gambit, especially the two-pawn version. Only a couple of realistic moves here for black. Queen takes obviously is no good because that would lose the queen. You've got king to h8, but then white's got the incredible move knight takes h7. King kind of has to take it, right? And then queen h5, king g8, and then the surprising move queen to g6, exploiting the fact that the f7 pawn is pinned due to the bishop here, and threatening checkmate on g7, and there's actually nothing that black can do about that. So back here after the knight f6 move, the only other try is of course to take the knight, but then white gives this check, king h8 is forced, and we've got this double threat now on the f6 pawn. The bishop and the queen both attack this pawn. Black can't allow that pawn to be taken because it would result in the loss of the queen and therefore the game. And so after bishop e7 to defend, white creates an even bigger threat with bishop d3, and there's nothing that black can do about this. There's just no way to defend that pawn, so white wins. So I think you can see just how much pressure black can find themselves under in the Danish Gambit. It's a lot of fun for white, so go ahead and give it a try. If you enjoyed this video, show your appreciation by giving it a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this, and drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Nathan Rose, bye for now.